So we pick travelers. Our typical customers are people flying in and out of the country. So we pick those from the airport to wherever they're going and back. And we do this through a network of driver partners for whom we give regular business and improve livelihoods. They can book through WhatsApp, they can call us, they can email us. We just try to make it as simple and convenient, as seamless as possible for our customers.
I'm going to now request Dr. Emmanuel to come and say hello to us and tell us more formally the purpose of our gathering here. And let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Dr. Emmanuel dei-tumi, the President and Chief Copywriter of the HCI, the Human Capital International. You're most welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Charles. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, both present in this auditorium and as many that are online. My role is very simple, and that is to put this whole summit in context. And so in doing so, my objective basically are just to discuss the role of religion and enterprise in Africa in our contemporary world. Just as how the Master of Ceremony has already mentioned, Africa is home to a lot of businesses, particularly in the informal sector. And yet, statistics show that out of every 5 businesses that start on this continent, quite a number of them fail. We're also told that Africa is the continent that has the most praying people on the continent. And so we also want to look at why religion and why enterprise. Why religion and why enterprise? Now, as I said, in Africa, belief systems are dominant. And it is regarded as the most faith-based continent in the entire whole world. And yet, the business and socioeconomic activities are often flavored by our belief system, ladies and gentlemen. And if businesses are not doing well, we need to ask questions. Despite all of that, Africa is noted to be one of the poorest continents, if not the poorest continent. Over 49 million Africans live in extreme poverty, and high unemployment and inequality exist in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2021 alone, certain things happened. For example, in Africa, 15 active armed conflicts were registered. And not only that, we also witnessed a number of things. There were 4 military coups d'etats that we witnessed in Africa in 2021. Chad, Mali, Guinea, and Sudan. And as you know, ladies and gentlemen, there were fires, floods, and droughts, famine from worsening climate change. These are all issues that we need to talk about. And yet, despite all these difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is one of the biggest markets we have in the world, comprising 1.4 billion people and a combined GDP estimated over 6.7 trillion in purchasing power parity. Africa has a mass of 30 million square kilometers, which is 3 times that of China, and second largest continent on earth. There is also vast amounts of natural resources, especially those in demand for the Green Fourth Industrial Revolution. So the question that one may ask is, if indeed this is what is happening, what is the paradox? Why is Africa poor? And Lee Kuan Yew, the founding president of Singapore, said, in the world, there are best practices to learn from. Wherever there is a problem, what that means is that Africans can look elsewhere, or even amongst ourselves, to understand what others have done and what we can learn from them. In the last couple of years, we've seen that the world has gone through a tremendous change. Many, many things are happening. When COVID struck, we saw many things that happened, and what we have to learn from them is that we need to understand that global issues will have impact on the continent, whether we like it or not. Africa must remain actively engaged with the rest of the world. And if Africa must remain actively engaged with the rest of the world, and indeed we are saying that Africa is the most praying continent that has the most churches and religious faith-based institutions in the world, then it means that we need to find a way to ensure that religious or faith-based institutions are not operating from the edges. And that is one of the reasons why we are doing this particular summit. Why? Because faith-based institutions offer the most credible strategy and values for tackling Africa's overwhelming existential developmental challenges. So the question that we need to ask is, if indeed religious institutions on the continent, ladies and gentlemen, are going to play any role, then we must understand what are the pillars that control the world. And for those of us who, I believe, have read a bit about the Bible, if you look at Judges chapter number 16 and 25 to 26, it gives us the story of a man called Samson. Samson was a very strong king, and unfortunately, due to what somebody would call lack of values and lack of principles, he found himself in a very interesting situation and getting to the end of his life when the kings and his people have gathered and they were celebrating, making merry. They requested for Samson to come and sing for them, come and display. And we are told in the Bible that Samson requested, because he had lost his sight, to hold the pillars that held the building. And if you read from the 29th going, as Samson was about to die, he pulled these pillars and the pillars collapsed. And the Bible said that day, Samson killed so many people than what he did in his entire life. Again, in Proverbs chapter 9, verse number 1, we're told that wisdom has built her house. She has carved its 7 pillars. All over the world, ladies and gentlemen, the world rests on pillars. So the question is, what pillars hold our contemporary world today? And not in any specific order, I want to share some of the pillars that I believe that hold our world today. One of the pillars, ladies and gentlemen, is education. Education is so critical in our world today. Why? Because education, ladies and gentlemen, gives us what we know. It tells us what we know. Education gives us our intellectual base. You cannot become a doctor unless you go through education. So education has become one of the major pillars. Science and technology is also one of the pillars. Why? Because science and technology, ladies and gentlemen, helps us in, it's a seed of technology and innovation. And today, we are losing most of our youth because of technology and innovation. Another pillar that controls our world, ladies and gentlemen, is governance. Why? Governments control and rule the lives of its citizens. When COVID struck, parliaments and systems controlled by government said all churches must close. Certain things were not being done because rules were made and citizens had to comply with. So government becomes a major pillar for controlling our world today. Family is another pillar. Now, family, ladies and gentlemen, gives us identity. Family helps us to live together as a common piece of a unit. That is a major pillar. Mass media, ladies and gentlemen, is also become a major pillar in our world today because mass media shapes our opinion. A lot of the things we know about what is happening in the world is based on the media. It's funny that sometimes people read things from the papers, either in Monitor or New Vision or Graphic or Times or any of the world news, even from CNN and BBC, and we hold them as sacrosanct. We hold them as truth. What we don't know is that a lot of the things that shape our mind are determined by the editors in the editorial boards. So media plays a critical role in our world today. One other pillar that shapes our world is culture. Our culture defines our values that we live by. And all these pillars, we cannot leave them to chance because that is what is controlling the direction of our world. Another pillar, ladies and gentlemen, is enterprise, businesses, which is very key because businesses determine the finance, the money that determines what goes on in our world today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this summit, the question we want to ask is why enterprises? Why are we focusing on enterprises? We are focusing on enterprise because, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the pillars that I mentioned, you discover that out of all the pillars, whether it's education, whether it's science, whether it's the governance, whether it's family, whether it's culture, whether it's mass media or what have you. It is businesses, ladies and gentlemen, that controls all of these pillars that we have here. Business controls our culture. Today we are told that it is okay for a man to marry a man. We are told that it's okay for a woman to marry a woman, which undermines the value systems of the African culture, the family culture, the family pillar in our continent today. Those who have money determines the syllabuses of our educational system. And if you don't have money, you have to listen to what these guys are saying. The media is shaping our opinion about the world. A lot of the things we hear and talk about is because those who control the media tell us what we must hear. Even politically, media can make and unmake governments in certain parts of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the people who have the money determines who must become a president and who must not become an MP. The people that have the money, ladies and gentlemen, determine the direction of countries. So we cannot, if we're discussing religion and enterprises, we cannot underrate that particular subject matter. That is why we are discussing, or we have put this summit together from the context of religion. Why? The top 10% of the highest earners in the world owns 76% of global wealth, while the bottom 50% owns only just 2%, including Africans, of all the world resources, because we are poor, because we don't control the pillars that rule the world. Ladies and gentlemen, powerful corporations determine powerful governments and weaker societies and democracies. So enterprise is very critical, ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to determine a better society, a strong governance, and a strong business systems in our world. So it's important for us to know the characteristics of the Samsons in our contemporary world. Who are those who are controlling the pillars in our world today? And you come to discover, ladies and gentlemen, there are three characteristics that defines the people that control the pillars of the world. Number one is innovative ideas. People that have knowledge. People that are able to compound theories shape the direction of our world today. And those that have the money tell us when to sleep, what to buy, what to eat, what to wear, what not to wear, and the rest. And the third characteristic, ladies and gentlemen, are those who have power and influence. And you come to discover, ladies and gentlemen, that these characteristics are traceable largely to those that have the finances, that have the power. So, what lies ahead of us? The period 2023 and 2050, ladies and gentlemen, present huge opportunities for humankind due to continuing advances in arts and science. Now, at the same time, there are certain risks that Africa cannot, gloss over. Risks such as epidemics, climate change, pandemic, conflicts, advance in technology that will hurt Africa. Today, our young people are largely spending all their time on social media. And yet we don't have control over what happens in the technological world. If faith-based institutions do not become proactive, ladies and gentlemen, and effectively get involved, we are going to lose the battle for whatever that the world is going to do. So it has a lot of implications for us, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we are putting this whole summit together. What will be the implication for religion and faith-based institutions in Africa? Ladies and gentlemen, it is important for us to understand that for us, as families and as religions and faith-based institutions, for us to be able to have an impact in whatever is going on, we are going to have to become strategic. Now, those of you who play chess, in the game of chess, you don't only focus on what you are playing, you must also focus on your opponent or on the person that you are playing with. Religious institutions and faith-based institutions, ladies and gentlemen, cannot become inward. The time has come for us to begin to look at what is happening around us and how we can get involved. So we got to become strategic in the things that we are doing. Number two, we are going to have to put on our CAT skills, our critical thinking, analytical skills. We need to be able to observe global patterns and begin to ask very critical and open-ended questions to enable us to understand what is happening and how we can get involved and therefore address some of the issues that are going on. These are issues that are very, very important. Again, if we are going to become important, we are going to have to focus on the youth. The time has come for us to understand that the youth are an integral part of our generation. And in Africa, Africa has the youngest population in the whole world. And therefore, religious-based institutions, or if Africans are known to be religious, and we have the youngest population in the world, then faith-based institutions, ladies and gentlemen, ought to focus on the young people. And in focusing on the young people, we need to know what we ought to take them on and what we need to empower them on. So what is the nature of the discourse for the next 2 days? For the next 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask certain questions. The first question is, if African societies are very religious, but at the same time, startups and SMEs are not doing well, to what extent does the individual entrepreneur's belief system contribute to the growth or collapse of businesses on the continent? That's the first question we want to discuss. The second question we want to discuss is if belief systems are crucial to Africans, and indeed Africa is the most praying continent, could belief systems be harnessed to improve businesses' sustainability, to reduce unemployment and poverty in Africa? That is the second question we want to ask. The third question we want to ask, ladies and gentlemen, is to examine the concept of wealth creation, technology, innovation, and whether belief systems enhance the structural, existential existence of poverty among African societies. Today, there are many people who still believe that if you are rich, you can't go to heaven. And that for you to go to heaven, you got to be poor. We need to interrogate that as well. And the last point we want to explore, ladies and gentlemen, is to explore new ways of leveraging belief systems as a force for positive social and economic transformation for Africa, and for that matter, to position Africa in a way that will make it become relevant. These are the issues, ladies and gentlemen, that has brought all of us together to this particular day for the next 2 days. And I'm hoping that all the resource people that we have brought on board from both Uganda, from Ghana, from Malawi, from South Africa, and those of us who are here, we've brought people who have practiced it, who have done it, people who have done, for example, corporate societies or circles, as we call it in Uganda, successfully, those who have run businesses successfully. What can we learn from these people so that together we can build a formidable religious-based institutions that will play a critical part in the governance, in the educational, in the family, in the culture, in the media, pillars that control our world today. That is the basis and that is the objective for which we have gathered here. And I pray that by the end of the next 2 days, we shall go home knowing that we came, we learned, and we are going back to make an influence. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your attention, and I want to welcome you to this 2-day session. Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard the safest airline in Africa. With industry-leading safety measures to protect your well-being. The first in Africa to earn a diamond standard of safety. Offering a more contactless, safe, and seamless experience. Delivered with a smile by Africa's first fully vaccinated crew. Creating special memories that bring the joy back to flying, so you can continue making memories with your loved ones. Book your flight with Rwandair today. Rwandair, the safest airline in Africa.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
I first met UMB when I was at the crossroads of my business. I had a serious problem and UMB has made it possible for me to still stand today. How did they do this? They did not work and put me in a box. They looked at me as an individual and got a product from me which helped me to survive the period. Banks should look at it and see how they can also go that way to be able to meet individual customers, tailor products to suit the individual customers, and not to just box everybody together.